Everyone, welcome to session one in the retirement planning series. Session one today, we're going to talk about goal setting and what are the things you need to consider for the next 20, 30, maybe 40 years of your life. So ultimately, where we start with this is we talk about goal setting. And goal setting is a widely used phrase, but ultimately it's extremely important with retirement planning, in the sense that you need to have at least some sense of a picture of what you want to achieve in this next stage of your life. And really, people talk about, for a start, they talk about, well, how much income do I need to live off? And there's probably two ways of looking at this. And I thought I'd share with you both today what happens with the income stuff. And I talk about past behaviour is the best predictor of future behaviour. So if you sat down today and you calculated all of your expenses based on what clothes you're wearing, the pubs you're going to, the restaurants you're going to, all of the money you're spending on cars and houses and things that you've got in your life today. And you could perhaps strip out the one-off costs if you pretend you don't have a mortgage or things like that. How much money are you spending today? And ultimately, when you retire, your lifestyle won't change that much. So if you're spending $65,000 today after tax, the likelihood is that you need to plan to spend $65,000 a year at least going forward for your retirement. So that's probably one way of looking at it, is that if you sit down, and it can be a bit confronting for some people working out what they're spending today, but I would really implore you to sit down, work out what that number is, and then it becomes a very good number to target for your retirement planning. The second thing I thought I'd share with you today, is that we've got some stats that one of the Australian Super, the big super fund, decided to provide around what a comfortable and a modest and age-based pension retirement would look like. And they talk about a comfortable retirement talking about regular leisure activities, occasional restaurant meals, home delivery meals, etc. You owning a reasonable car, you budget for home improvements, domestic and occasional overseas trips, premium private health. For a couple household budget aged between 65 to 84, you should allow for $66,000 a year after tax. If you're on a modest lifestyle where you're having limited meals at restaurants, you're not doing as much travel, you've only got basic private health insurance, that number drops to about $42,000 a year for a couple. And if you're talking about things where you're right on the age pension threshold, you're talking about $35,000 a year. I find that my client base, probably 75% of my client base for retirement planning, sits between $60,000 to $80,000 in spending in their retirement years. The other thing that I guess is really important to remember here, and I might just use the board to draw this, is that ultimately what you find is that over time, if you start with an $80,000 income from age 63 from your retirement, you might get to about 75 where you're spending $80,000 a year. That, though, at some point tends to drop off, and it might drop down to 70K. As we get older, we don't travel as much, we don't do as much eating out. We have various downgrading of some activities, and then so that drops off maybe up until 85, and then we see another drop off again. It doesn't drop a long way down, but it does tend to drop in my experience. What tends to kick in a little bit is going to be the medical care costs. The healthcare costs start to kick in, aged care costs start to kick in. But you definitely see a slow downward trend in some of that spending. The one thing I can guarantee, it probably doesn't go up. So if you can afford for the rest of your life to live at $80,000 a year, you won't run out of money, in that you'll probably find yourself spending less money as you get older. Some of the other things that I really wanted to talk about as well today is that it's very important to consider in a timeline schedule, and we draw this, across the bottom, and really map out, saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to retire at 66 years of age. We're going to look at downsizing the home at 70. We're going to do some overseas trips here and here. We need to change the car here. There's various things on a timeline basis that help us as financial planners trying to map out the retirement planning pathway, because having that knowledge and at least approximately starting to allow for this really gives us a clear picture of what we need to do from an investment point of view as well. And it might also be that you intend to work part-time up until age 70. A lot of clients these days go, hey, Tony, I'm not going to give away full-time work. I might intend to work part-time. Some clients want to do volunteer work. And I think the really important message that I want to talk about today as well, when you're starting to think about retirement, start thinking about the rock you're going to hop to, because quitting work, might be full-time work, but just a lot of clients don't tend to do nothing. They don't sit around. They tend to probably go back to 4 days a week, 3 days a week. They might change to do, as I said earlier, some volunteer work. They might change career paths altogether, but they tend to slow down rather than stop. And I think that having that next sense of purpose, having that next sense of this is what I'm going to get up and structurally do is really important, because if you feel like you're just going to go cold turkey on work and then do nothing, I've actually seen that probably mentally and physically for a lot of people be quite a poor thing, a poor choice. So keep purpose, keep your structure in your life, and that's something that you really need to think about. One of the things that, as I said earlier, that, that's really important to think about is a lot of clients start thinking about downsizing their home. What does that mean financially for them? Do you want to buy a beach house in retirement? Do you want to do 4 major overseas trips in the next 10 years, which are going to cost $50,000 each? All of those things need to be considered and planned for. So develop your goals, have some clear timelines here, make sure you're realistic about what you want to achieve, and then we can start to map out what the next 20 and 30 years really, really looks like. Have a go at this. Homework is to go away and think about this. So homework is draw up a timeline, think about what are the key dates that you've got in mind. And the second bit of homework is work out how much income you're spending and how much income you think you need for your retirement. And that'll tell you some pretty interesting information. Thanks for listening.